As English remains our primary language, watchdogs want you to speak and write it correctly. We sometimes call them grammar grouches. Ron Mead leads that parade, hoping to help us navigate a sea of pronouns and adverbs in his new book, A Concise Grammar Book for Those Who Hate Grammar. Welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a real joy to be here.
What inspired you to create this book?
All right. When I started at the University of Phoenix, and I've been involved with writing for many, many years, I taught high school as well, I was shocked at the quality of writing of entering college students. I mean, just really bad. And over the years, I actually got angry because I don't want to grade this stuff. And then I realized, well, that's not my job. My job is to help the students, right? So what I did, I started collecting the errors I saw, repeated errors over and over again, you know, online as well as in the classroom, nationwide, because I had nationwide online students. I started collecting the common errors I saw. And I found out that they don't make all the errors. You know, that's good news, not all the errors. So I documented these errors in a handout showing the error and how to correct it. No, yes, just the common errors. And then when I grade their papers, I use a comments section on word processing, Microsoft comments section. And I say in the book, I say, for example, go to the book, or it was a handout at this time, look at 1C, comma splice error. And it shows the comma splice error, which is a comma joining two complete sentences, and how to correct it. 3 ways to correct that comma splice error. They correct it, and that's the way they learn. I'm not correcting it, but they correct it. And I found remarkable improvement because they're correcting it. Almost every paper I get, I have to have them rewrite.
How, in your experience, how did we get to this point? I think there's a lot of criticism of the educational system, and is it really deficient in helping students learn this?
Well, how we got to this point, I think, is when I went to school at college, we were taught prescriptive grammar, you know, and that embodies the rules of grammar. I was taught that, and you apply them to the papers, you know. I was taught that. And then suddenly that was, not suddenly, but I think in the 80s, the 80s and the 90s, it was thrown out, prescriptive grammar. You just write, you know, because they assumed, well, you're a native speaker, you know the grammatical rules, you know, you can do it, you can do it. And just they encourage free writing. Just write journals, write anything, and it'll be okay. And I think that's one of the causes. They threw out the rules. Everything has rules. Biology, you know, astronomy, you know, they all have rules. We have rules of grammar. So that's, I think, one of the causes, And so what's happening is we have teachers who go into the school system who were taught descriptive, they weren't taught the rules, and they have to grade papers, and they don't know how to grade them. They don't know the rules themselves. And we have that among college instructors as well as high school teachers. I'm not blaming them. This is what they're exposed to. And so I feel they really need a grammar refresher, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. They need to look at this stuff. And I've got high school teachers now who are really grateful for the book. Yeah.
And what is your objective, really, aside from the tedious correcting of student papers?
My objective, my mission is to raise the literacy level of the Tucson public, the community, the schools, the teachers, the college instructors, raise the literacy level. This is one approach. This is not everything. This is just the grammar. You know, I mean, you have organization and all that, which I may do in a future book. But I focus here on the grammar errors. Of course, grammar affects sentence structure, like run-on sentence, and I show how to correct a run-on sentence. The comma splices I mentioned, dangling modifiers, that kind of thing, you know, vague reference of pronoun. It's not mutually exclusive, I don't think, because it affects the sentences as well. But in the classroom, I use not only this, but I talk about the writing process, the importance of writing a rough draft and rewriting. They don't like rewriting, see. You got to rewrite, you know, and you got to, you know, some tips here I'd like to share is that reading aloud is very important. Who wrote John Adams? You know, he said, I read every sentence aloud. So when I encourage the students to read the sentence aloud, that helps them too. You know. But also, you know, the papers are due at 6 o'clock, right? And I'll see it posted at 5:59. They're just handing in stuff, just like that, just writing it and not thinking about it or using a writing process, which I think is very important, a process.
Well, and you must have had some response from your students and how this could possibly help them. Have they reported success?
Yes, they love it.
Tangible?
Yes, they love it. Yes, they love it. Because at the University of Phoenix, we at one time had them buy the Greg Reference Manual, which is that thick, right? And they weren't using it. It's too intimidating. I mean, I use it because I want to know the rules, but they can't wade through it. They don't want to wade through all that, all those grammatical rules and the complex index. So this helps remedy that. It's more approachable. Yeah.
Give us some examples of the cost of lack of understanding of grammatical rules.
Oh boy. I tell you, your organizations have to have grammar refresher workshops. They have to send people to school. The cost of management is that they hire people expecting that they can write, and they can't write. So managers have to rewrite what they get from their people. And this one man who's the head of a huge organization told me, I send those papers back, or the document back, or that email, say, rewrite this. And they say, what? I got all A's in college? What are you telling me? And there's a lot of disgust out there, a lot of anger that people are graduating from college, and not only the University of Phoenix, but a lot of colleges. And we try to address that at the University of Phoenix. I don't get fired because I love the University of Phoenix, because we have programs that help the students. I mean, we teach remedial writing. We shouldn't have to do that, but we teach middle school writing. We shouldn't have to do that. I don't think they should come prepared, but we have to face the issues.
Well, and that's a reality for many students who go to Pima College as well.
Exactly.
And those remedial programs are going away,
yes,
most likely because of budget cuts.
There you go.
But we also could ask you, in fact, and you are self-proclaimed perhaps a grammar grouch, a snob, but isn't the English language, it is evolving, and it's a living, breathing thing linguistically. And we saw this just last week when OMG and LOL were added to the Oxford English Dictionary. So how would you respond to that?
Okay.
That are these rules entirely rigid?
Well, to me, there's informal, there are standards, formal standards and informal standards. Informal standards are fine for texting and all that, but they're not applicable to business writing. To serious writing, research papers, to writing a resume. I have human resource people come to my classes and say they throw resumes in the can because of just poor spelling. And if they're going to write a resume this way, a cover letter, do we want to hire these people? So I think you're right, language is fluid, but there's some basic rules that are in the book. I'm not really a grouch. I just expect readable sentences, readable sentences that are plain English, and accessible. But I hate reading sentences I don't understand. It gives me all kinds of stress. Trying to interpret what is this person trying to say.
Well, and also in the shameless self-promotion department, you do assign your students to listen to NPR and PBS.
Yes, I do.
Why is that?
Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because they hear intelligent, articulate interviewers. They hear speakers who are articulate and intelligent. And they pick up on vocabulary words. And, I'll tell you, I can't believe it. One time I assigned them to look at a PBS program, and I forgot to get their oral report at the beginning of the class. And at the end of the class, aren't you going to let us talk about what we heard on PBS, the programs you assigned? Oh, I said, I'm sorry, go ahead. They were very excited about it. Because they don't normally, be honest, they don't listen to that. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they wouldn't listen to these programs. But when they do, they're often pleasantly surprised at the quality of the interviewing. Terry Gross, Diane Rehm, Charlie Rose, they're really impressed by the quality of the interviewing. So they need to hear good languge.
I imagine that the business community would be very interested in this kind of information.
Yes, I think they are. Yeah. I hope so.
Okay. Well, just before you go, what are two pieces of advice regarding grammar? What's some easy things that people could acquire right now?
Okay. Good writing is rewriting. Beethoven wrote several drafts to every symphony he wrote. Good writing is, you talk to any professional writer, that's important. The other thing is keep your sentences short. If it's going over 2 typed lines, you know, using 12-point font or whatever, it's probably too long. And don't fill it with a bunch of ands. And this, and this, and this. You know, it's called a stringy sentence, and it's hard to follow.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for your interest.